Do this over and over again, and I am positive that you'll level up a key skill required to be an amazing SOC analyst. In today's video, we'll be going over a Sherlock lab from Hack the Box called Unit42, where you'll get to learn how to analyze Sysmon logs, and trust me, knowing how to analyze and interpret not only Sysmon logs, but Windows event logs in general, will quickly move you from here to here when it comes to investigations. I would encourage you to follow along and have fun with this lab. Let's get started. To begin, you want to head over to hackthebox.com and sign in with your account. If you don't have an account, go ahead and create one. Once you've logged in, you want to head over to Sherlock's, which is on the left-hand side. And then we want to look for Unit42, which is located right here. If we take a look at this scenario, it says in this Sherlock, you will familiarize yourself with Sysmon logs and various useful event IDs for identifying and analyzing malicious artifacts on a Windows system. Palo Alto's Unit42 recently conducted research on an Ultra VNC campaign where attackers utilized a backdoored version of Ultra VNC to maintain access to systems. For those that don't know, Ultra VNC is a legitimate free software that allows a user to remotely control a PC. However, this particular version of Ultra VNC contains a backdoor. This lab is inspired by that campaign and guides participants through the initial access stage of the campaign. Now that we know more about this scenario, let's go ahead and download our unit42.zip file by clicking on the download button, and then I will save it under my downloads directory. And we can take a look at the password by clicking on this key icon here. And the password is going to be hacktheblue. Opening up my downloads directory, I see my unit42.zip, and I'm just gonna right click, and I do have 7-zip installed, so I will select that and select extract to unit42. It'll ask me for a password, so I'll say hacktheblue and hit OK. Now, if you didn't have 7-zip installed, you can go ahead and download that by heading over to 7-zip.org. Now that the file is extracted, we can head over to the directory by double clicking it. And we have one Microsoft Windows Sysmon operational event log. There are many different ways that we can use to analyze Windows event logs. And one simple way is to simply double click it. Once you double click it, a Windows event viewer will pop up. I'll go ahead and just expand this a bit. And if we take a look on the left-hand side, we have our saved logs and it says Microsoft Windows Sysmon operational. This is the event log right here. In the middle pane, we do have our events. And then at the bottom, we do have some information related to that event. Now, if I wanted to filter for a particular event ID, I can go ahead and select Filter Current Log on the right. And then I'll go ahead and click on All Event IDs. And let's say, for example, I wanted to only look for event ID 1. I'll hit OK. And then we have a total of 6 events. So this is one way that we can analyze Windows event logs. A second way is to utilize PowerShell or tools such as Log Parser, Hayabusa, Chainsaw, and many others. But what I personally like to do is analyze Windows event logs using Splunk, because that will allow me to use Splunk's query language to go over this data. And in this lab, I'll show you how to do just that. I'm not going to go over how to install Splunk, as I do have a video on that already, and I'll leave it in the description down below. But once you install Splunk and log in, what you want to do next is head over to Settings, which is on the top right corner, and select Add Data. I'll go ahead and select Skip. And at the bottom, we have 3 choices: Upload, Monitor, and Forward. What we want to do is select on Monitor. And then on the left, we have a lot of different options here. What I'll select is Files and Directories. I'll click on Browse. And then let's head over to our Unit42 directory. This is under my C drive, Users, Steven, Downloads, and Unit42. So I'll go ahead and expand that just to make sure that our file is located here. And it is, so I'll go ahead and select that directory, and it should be highlighted in blue. Now I'll go ahead and hit Select, and I'll leave the Include List and Exclude List as blank. So let's go ahead and hit Next. From here, we get to select the source type, app context, the host, and the index. For the source type, I am going to just leave it as automatic. For the app context, I'll leave it as search and reporting. The host, leave it as default, as constant value. And just as an FYI, your host field value is automatically populated with your computer value. So let me show you an example here. I'll type in PC. And you can see the device name is desktop-CKV-S52N. And if we take a look at Splunk, desktop-SKV-S52N. For the index, currently it selects default. I am going to just create a new index, and then I'll call this Hack the Box Unit42. And let's go ahead and hit save. And now click on review and submit. Now we can select start searching, and let's see if we get any events. So currently it has 0 events and our time range is all time. What I'll do is just remove everything and leave my index as HTB-Unit42, just like so, and hit enter. And now I have a total of 169 events. So what I'll do is I'll wait just a little bit, maybe 2 minutes, just to make sure that all of the data is ingested. All right, after a couple minutes, let's go ahead and refresh this. And we still get 169 events. Perfect. One thing that we need to do that is very important is to change the time zone of Splunk. So to do that, I'll click on my username, which is administrator at the top right corner. Click on preferences. And right now, if we take a look at the time zone, it is selecting default system time zone. What this means is that it's going to pull the time zone from your computer itself. So if your computer is using Pacific time zone, then Splunk will display everything in Pacific time zone. What we want to do is change this so it's set to GMT, Greenwich Mean Time. That way, everything will be displayed in UTC time. I'll hit apply, and then let's go ahead and refresh our page. Okay, we have 169 events. So now we can start taking a look at question number 1. So it says here, how many event logs are there with event ID 11? Now, what exactly is event ID 11? So before we even dig into this, let's go ahead and search up Sysmon event IDs. And taking a look at the first entry from learnmicrosoft.com, we can see a bunch of different event IDs here. Beginning with event ID 1, which is process creation, event ID 2, process change the file creation time, event ID 3, network connection. And I'm not going to go over all of them, so let's just go straight into event ID 11. And event ID 11 is file create. So this is a pretty cool one here. It says file create operations are logged when a file is created or overwritten. So that's pretty cool. Let's head over to our Splunk and let's take a look on the left-hand side of all of the fields that are available to us. Currently, we do see a selected field and an interesting field. And if I take a look at what field names exist, we do see a field called event code. And it currently has 14 values. So if I select that, we can see that 11 is the top value. So if we click on 11, our query would automatically update with event code equals 11. And we can see here that it has 56 events. We can safely assume that if we head over to Hack the Box, there are 56 event logs for event ID 11. We'll type in 56, hit submit, and that's correct. Awesome. Taking a look at question number 2, whenever a process is created in memory, an event with event ID 1 is recorded with details such as command line, hashes, process path, parent process path, etc. This information is very useful for an analyst because it allows us to see all programs executed on a system, which means that we can spot any malicious processes being executed. What is the malicious process that infected the victim's system? Whenever I am involved in an investigation that has Sysmon installed, I always look at event ID 1 because, as mentioned, it records data such as the command line and processes, which are extremely valuable when looking for malicious activity. So let's head over to our Splunk environment and we'll modify our query to include event ID 1. So all I need to do is just go ahead and remove 11 and just put in 1. Now I'll hit enter. And we have a total of 6 events. And because we have such a low event count, we can go ahead and just look at these events manually. As an FYI, whenever you're looking at Splunk, the latest event is at the top. So what I'll do is scroll all the way down to the bottom to find the earliest event. And I'll go ahead and expand this by clicking on show all 30 lines. And let's take a look here. So we see that the event code is 1. and it's on the computer name of desktop-887GK2L. And taking a look at the file path, we have C program files, Mozilla Firefox ping sender. What is ping sender? Let's go ahead and search that up. pingsender.exe. And this is coming from Firefox because if we take a look at the file path, we do see Mozilla Firefox. So let me include Firefox and I'll select the first entry here. The ping sender is a minimalistic program whose sole purpose is to deliver a telemetry ping. Based on this, it doesn't seem to be a malicious executable, at least not yet. The beauty of Event ID 1 for Sysmon is that it also includes a file hash. What I'll do is click on this arrow key, scroll down, and take a look at the field name and field value. So I do see SHA-1 and the SHA-1 value. Right below it, there's also the SHA-256 value as well. So I'll copy the SHA-256 and let's open up a VirusTotal and I will paste this in here. We get 0 vendors reporting this as malicious as a recording. Now, does this mean it's safe? Not necessarily. You'll need to look at surrounding events to really paint a bigger picture. However, let's move on to the next event. So if I go ahead and minimize the first event and click on Show All Lines, let's take a look at the file path here. We have C users, cyberjunkie, downloads, preventivo 24.02.14.exe.exe. Nice. And remember, event ID 1, it provides us with the file hash. So I'll go ahead and just copy the SHA-1 hash. As an FYI, it doesn't really matter which hash you copy, except for imp hash. So if you copy the SHA-1 hash, MD5, or SHA-256, you should get the information you're looking for. But with MD5 and SHA-1, you do run the risk of what is called a hash collision, and SHA-256 is less likely of that to occur. Just something to keep in mind. I'll copy the SHA-1, head over to VirusTotal, and then let's go ahead and paste that in. And wow, this file is definitely safe. I'm just kidding. 47 vendors as a recording flag this as malicious. We can see a lot of signatures flagging this with the keyword of VNC in it. So we do see Ultra VNC, there's Win VNC, and again, Win VNC. Remember, Ultra VNC is a program that allows users to control the computer remotely. So this is likely our backdoored Ultra VNC file. And let's take a look at when this occurred. This occurred on February 14th at 3:41:56 a.m. UTC time. Heading over to our Hack the Box. What is the malicious process that infected the victim's system? Well, it's likely our preventivo 24.02.14 file here. I'll copy the file path, including the file name, and let's paste that in here. And that is correct. Going over to question number 3, which cloud drive was used to distribute the malware? If we head over to VirusTotal here, we do have 8 comments under the community. And if I scroll down, we do see that the threat score is 8 out of 10. Again, definitely safe. There is malware, Ultra VNC, and RAT. RAT, which is short for Remote Access Trojan or Remote Access Tool, depending on who you ask. There's also an analysis done by Joe Sandbox, which is a malware analysis sandbox. And that's about it. So let's scroll all the way up here. It says Dropbox malware. Dropbox is a cloud hosting platform, making this a likely answer for question 3. How about we try that out? Dropbox. And that is correct. Perfect. Now, you might ask, Steven, if Dropbox wasn't mentioned, how the heck would we know? And that is an excellent question. This is what I teach in my course called the MyDFIR SOC Analyst course, and I'll leave a link down below if you're interested. But essentially, you'll want to look at surrounding events or search for the IOC, which in our case is the Preventivo 24. So if I go over to my Splunk, and I'll just copy the Preventivo 24, and I'll remove the event code 1 and paste in our keyword here. And we do have 59 total events. Currently, our results is set to 20 per page. I'll expand that to 50. And now we have 2 pages worth of data. What you want to do next is look at the earliest occurrence for this file. So head over to page 2 and scrolling all the way down, we do see that the earliest event happened at February 14th, 3/41/26. And if I were to expand this all here, we do see that the event code is 11, which if you recall, the event code 11 is file create. So this is when the Preventivo existed or was created on the computer of desktop-887GK2L. Your next question after seeing this event should be, okay, that's interesting. How did that file get onto this computer? Well, with Splunk, we can look at surrounding events by clicking on the time, and then we have our nearby events, plus minus 5 seconds, weeks, days, hours, minutes, or milliseconds. For this demo, I'll leave it as 5 seconds, and then I'll hit apply. Now take a look, we have 4 events, but we're still filtered for the keyword of Preventivo24. So let's go ahead and remove that and hit enter. And now we have 9 events. Going all the way down to the bottom to see the earliest event, which occurred on February 14th, 3/41/26. I'll go ahead and expand the event, and let's take a look. We have the event code of 22. So what is 22? Let's see here. Scroll down. 22 is DNS event DNS query. This event is generated when a process executes a DNS query, whether the result is successful or fails, cached or not. What that means is that our event here should have a DNS query. And look at that. Dropbox user content. Interesting. Now, if you're not convinced, we can take a look at the latest event. Scroll all the way up. And the one that occurred on February 14th, 3/41/30, we have an event code of 15. Let's take a look at Sysmon 15 file create stream hash. This event logs when a named file stream is created, and it generates events that log the hash of the contents of the file to which the stream is assigned. If we go ahead and expand this event, we do see our Preventivo24 zone identifier. And if we look at the referral URL, we can see that it's coming from Dropbox. And here's the full URL. And that is how we know that this file was downloaded from Dropbox. If this is something that excites you as much as it does for me, I have no doubt you'll love the course that I created. And again, link is in the description. Let's head over to question number 4. The initial malicious file timestamped, which is a defensive evasion technique where the file creation date is changed to make it appear old. Many files it created on disk. What was the timestamp changed to for a PDF file? This technique is also known as time stomping, which is a popular anti-forensic technique where attackers would modify the standard information timestamp of a file to make it look like it was created prior to the compromise, if that makes sense. Without going super deep into this, the goal here is to hopefully trick those that are analyzing the compromise to avoid looking at the time-stomped file, since it doesn't fall under the time of interest. Now, if we wanted to look for these file modifications, if you have Sysmon installed, we can look at an event ID 2. So if I head over to my Sysmon documentation and take a look at event ID 2, we can see a process changed a file creation time. So this will track any changes done by a file creation time. Seriously, Sysmon is amazing. So let's go ahead and modify our query here. I'll type in event code equals 2. Now we have 0 events. Why is that? Well, that is because our time range is currently filtered down to 5 seconds. So what I'll do is just select all time, since I know for a fact that this is a demo environment. And we have 16 events. Scroll down to see the earliest event, and that is at 3/41/57. Expand that, and let's see here. We have our app data roaming photo and fax VN, and this seems to be a MSI file, so we are not interested in that. Now we can go ahead and look through all of these events, but because our question is looking specifically for PDFs, I'll go ahead and just type in PDF as a keyword. And we have 1 event. Perfect. Expand this, and we do see a PDF file here, which occurred on 3/41/58. I'll click on this arrow icon here and scroll down. We can see the technique name as timestamp. And if we take a look at the event, we can see that the time was changed to January 14th, 2024 at 8:10:06 UTC. I'll go ahead and copy that. And let's make sure our format is correct. So it wants year, month, day, hours, minute, seconds. So that says year, month, day, hour, minute, seconds, and we do not need the milliseconds. So I'll go ahead and remove that, hit submit, and perfect. The malicious file dropped a few files on disk. Where was once.cmd created on disk? Please answer with the full path along with the file name. If you recall, we did go over a event ID, which was 11 for Sysmon. And what we can do is look at all of the files that were created on this computer by searching for that particular event ID. I'll remove the PDF and event code, and I'll change this to event code 11. Hit search, and we have 56 events. Now let's include our keyword of once.cmd, and we have 2 events. Taking a look at the earliest event, expanding that, we do have our once.cmd. And taking a look at where this once.cmd is located in, it's under the app data, roaming, photo, and facts. Let's go ahead and copy this out, and we'll paste it as our answer here. That's correct. Moving on, we have the malicious file attempted to reach a dummy domain, most likely to check the internet connection status. What domain name did it try to connect to? This is quite common as malware often checks to see if the machine has internet connectivity prior to doing anything else. Now, if the computer has internet connectivity, then hey, let's establish a connection and retrieve additional malware or perform other actions. And if not, go ahead and terminate the process. This way, it can prevent those who perform malware analysis inside machines that do not have internet connectivity. Earlier, we did see an event for Sysmon, which was event ID 22, and this provided us with DNS-related events. So what we can do is perform a keyword search for the IOC, indicator of compromise, and include the event 22 to see what we can find. Over to our Splunk, remove the once.cmd, change the event code to 22, and include our IOC, which was prevent TiVo 24. And we have 1 event. Expanding this, we can see the domain of www.example.com. I'll copy that, and this should be our answer. Awesome. Moving on to the second last question. Which IP address did the malicious process try to reach out to? Now, if we take a look at Sysmon's documentation, there is an event ID for Sysmon that tracks network activity. And if we take a look, it is this one right here, which is event ID 3. The network connection event logs TCP/UDP connections on the machine, and it is disabled by default. So whenever you install Sysmon, do be aware that it is disabled by default. Similar to what we had just done, I'll go ahead and just replace our event code of 22 to 3, and then hit enter. We have 1 event. Expand it. And let's take a look. We have the external IP address of 93.184.216.34. Copy that, and let's paste it in here. Sweet. Our last question. The malicious process terminated itself after infecting the PC with a backdoored variant of Ultra VNC. When did the process terminate itself? Well, let's head back over to our Sysmon documentation. And looking at the events, we do see process terminated. It says the process terminate event reports when a process terminates. It provides the UTC time, process GUID, and the process ID of the process. So I'll change the event code from 3 to 5. And it did mention the malicious process, so I'll leave our IOC here and I'll hit search. We have 1 event. This occurred on 3:41:58 UTC time. Expand the event, and yeah, seems about right. I'll go ahead and copy this. Do keep in mind of the format, it is year, month, day, hour, minute, seconds. We have our year, month, day, hour, minute, seconds, and we don't want the milliseconds, so go ahead and remove that and submit. Perfect. We had just completed Unit42. Sysmon is an incredible piece of software that I highly recommend any company install on their endpoints, especially ones that are more important than others. If you're running a home lab, do install this to collect telemetry so you can play around and learn more about Sysmon. A key skill that many SOC analysts require is the ability to interpret endpoint logs, and by practicing over and over again, You will eventually get to the point where you know what event IDs are interesting to look at to help you obtain more interesting information. The objective here is to not remember all the event IDs, but rather develop a methodology to uncover suspicious activity that might be lurking in your environment. Again, the MyDFIR SOC Analyst course is down below, and that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you found it informative, please let me know by hitting that like button and subscribe if you want to. Remember to stay curious and do things differently.